And then I just shot through a tunnel of fractals and lights. I landed in this computer chip city that looked very familiar. This is the story of the first time that I smoked DMT. So this was several years ago. I was in Dallas, Texas. I was doing shows. A comic came up to me afterwards and he was like, "Hey, have you ever smoked DMT before?" I was like, "No, never heard of it." And he's like, "Well, you'd like it. You're a trippy dude." So he takes me to this guy's house. The guy's like, "Have you ever done mushrooms before?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, tons of mushrooms." He's like, "Okay, well, nothing like mushrooms." Okay. What was that question all about then? Just some odd census that you do? And he's right. Mushrooms and DMT are nothing alike. Mushrooms might make like cars seem shinier than normal, or plants move about in a way that you haven't noticed before. That is not the DMT experience in any way. DMT is like, hey, you know all of this reality and perception that you are super familiar with and very convinced is real? Well, sorry about this. Zip. Tent of lies collapses, something else entirely going on. It is a real red pill, blue pill, matrixy kind of moment. And he goes, take this bong, and you want to have 3 of the biggest hits you can possibly take out of this bong. I was like, no problem. I used to have a 6-foot bong when I was 17 years old, which I felt pretty dumb about until now. I realized I have been training for this moment for a very long time. And he's like, well, just so you know, it comes on very fast and it's very intense. You're gonna have the first hit, you're probably gonna feel weird. Then you'll have the second hit. That's when it's too much for most people. Most people think they had too much, something's gone wrong, they wanna stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. You have to keep going. You have to get that 3rd hit. You'll break through to this other space. And I was like, whatever with the buildup, dude. And I took that bong, I took the first hit off that bong, and right away I was like, oh, I'm turning into a cartoon. Have I always been a cartoon, or am I just now turning into a cartoon? Well, I guess I'll just be a cartoon, smoking a bong. And I took the second hit, and then all of this, the entire universe just started shaking violently and collapsing. I was like, oh no, oh, I just did all the drugs. Guess I'm going to die now. And he saw the panic on my face, and he's like, one more. I was like, well, nothing to lose at this point. And I started filling up this bong for the 3rd hit, and it was nice and milky white. I took a breath before clearing it, and then this sense of peace just washed over me. And then everything I've ever known just goes ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum, gone. And then it was just me in this bong in space, not like planets or stars or anything, just a black infinite void. Brought the bong with me. And the smoke inside the bong turned into electricity, and that electricity turned into codes. I was like, this is gonna be weird. And then I smoked all those codes up, and then I just shot through a tunnel of fractals and lights and strange colors, and I landed in this hologram computer chip city made out of codes that looked very familiar for some reason, like I had been there many times before. And it was made out of these lights that were communicating with me in this way that I could understand perfectly, like thoughts without words, clearer than I've ever understood anything. And right away it was just like, welcome! So happy to see you! And I was like, oh, damn. Well, you really did it this time, Shane. You broke your brain. Now what are you gonna do? You live here now. And it just goes, hey, calm down, focus, pay attention. And it just started building these buildings. They were coming together like clockwork. And it was like, this is how I talk. It's all very difficult to explain. Now do you understand? I was like, I guess so. And I was like, now do you really want to see something? Like it was going to show me the meaning of life or something. And I was like, all right. And it's like, look over here. And I looked over, and there was just this weird, out-of-place cartoon cat just laughing at me. I looked back like, what? He's like, I'm just fucking with you. And that was it. That was the end of my trip. I was 100% back to normal, as clear-headed as I've ever been in my entire life, going, what the hell was that? When I first started smoking DMT, I was going to these different dimensions and seeing these different beings, and I kind of thought it was all in my head. It doesn't look like that when you're in the experience, but it's how I rationalized it to myself afterwards. I would be talking with these beings that were seemingly giving me all of this information that I could never remember. And I was like, well, you need to show me something to prove that you're outside of my head. About the 20th time that I smoked DMT, I was all of a sudden in this 50s kitchen. There was a boy sat down in the kitchen. It was like he was in trouble or something, and his father wanted to tell him something, but he didn't know how. His father came up, and he just went like this. The kitchen just collapsed and deconstructed into a movie set, and it was revealed to the boy that I think was me, that he'd been living on a movie set his entire life. And then you could see the entire universe. He's taking all of this in, and then the universe just ripped open, and then there was this purple fabric behind it, and then I got sucked into that purple fabric, and then I was in this other dimension. And I was sitting there working with this guy in this other dimension that I think was me, and we had some sort of job, which is a real bummer. We were trying to figure out how to keep this portal open or this gateway open or something. We got done with work that day, and there was a carnival. And there's a Ferris wheel, and there's some guy playing a piano, and then this dancing purple gypsy woman comes out, and it's like I've known her for lifetimes. Like I've spent thousands of lifetimes with this woman, and it's just been a while since I've seen her, and we saw each other, and right away I was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And we caught up for a while, and then when the DMT was wearing off, she told me that everything was just going to be okay, and that all of this just keeps on repeating itself over and over again, so not to worry about it too much. We got sad that we were going to have to split up and I was going away again, and so to cheer me up, she just spun around and exploded into fractals that turned into like bats and different creatures that became everything in the universe, and then it became me, and I was everything, and then it got sucked back out, and it was just her spinning around again. She's like, see ya! And I got out of it, and I was like, okay, well that was weird. But that's DMT for you. There's always weird stuff like that happening, and you're interacting with these strange beings. The next night, I went and I gave DMT to a friend for his first time. He'd never had DMT, and I didn't want to ruin anything by sharing anything about the experience with him. I wanted to go in there fresh. So I told him, here's this bowl, just smoke it for as long as you can. So he starts smoking this bowl, and he's coughing a lot. I can't tell how many hits he's getting, and I'm encouraging to keep going, and now he's having like 8, 10 hits. This is more than what I expected him to do. And he sits back and he just goes, I had too much, I had too much, I had too much. So it's a minute and a half in, and he's still going, I've had too much. And I'm thinking, he might have had too much. Then finally, he sits back, this smile comes on his face, and he is just like, oh, they love you here. And I was like, yeah, there's like a real sense of like love or going home or belonging or something. He's like, no, they love you, Shane. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, there's this purple woman in here that says that she knows you really well, and she just wants you to know that she cares about you. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm in this carnival, and there's this Ferris wheel, and this guy playing a piano, and there's this purple dancing gypsy woman that says that she knows you. I didn't talk for about 10 minutes, and then he got out of the experience, and I asked him about it, and he said that these little mechanical elf things scattered, and they were scared. He was scared of them. They were scared of him. When he heard my voice, they all started peeking out, and they're like, is that Shane? And he was like, oh, you guys know Shane? And they were like,
oh yeah, he comes in here all the time.
And that's when this purple woman came out and said that she had a message for me. I have no explanation for it. I've seen that purple woman at least 5 or 6 times. Since that, we have this strange relationship. She gets jealous of my girlfriend sometimes. And so I think I'm dating a woman in a different dimension, but I don't even ever remember her name. I'm pretty sure we've known each other for thousands of lifetimes. I have no idea what her name is, which I imagine is irritating. And then maybe that's why I'm always in trouble with her.